I'm going to move on now to an overview of our Module 5 readings. Our first reading this week is actually is the lecture notes, since the lecture notes have information that I'm not including in the video. After that, though, please read the article by Christensen, Palin, and Scullin called Family School Partnerships, an Essential Component of School Achievement, of Student Achievement. The first thing that you should notice about this article is that it was published in a journal called Principal Leadership. So the primary audience is school administrators. Christensen and her colleagues give specific ideas about ways that principals can support the development and implementation of partnerships. But as teachers, I invite you to consider ways that you can take Christensen's suggestions and implement them at your school level, at your team level, in your classroom, and perhaps you even want to share this article with your school leadership team. The first and third sections of this article, Obstacles to Overcome and Hard to Reach Parents, demonstrates a connection between the readings that we did in the first half of the course and the second half, the development of effective collaborations. The second section, though, Promoting Effective Partnerships, contains many suggestions for developing your own collaboration project. Likewise, you'll find ideas to use in your critiques. Our second article for this module is also co-written by Christensen, and it's the first chapter in the book from which that partnership model I shared earlier, from which that came. You'll find that this article has a much more academic feel. In fact, it's almost difficult to believe that one of the co-authors is the same. It's definitely an example of the way that writing style changes as the audience changes. Try to bear through the first 3 pages, or maybe even skip them and come back when you've read the more practical sections that come later. Yeah, I did actually say that. Beginning on page 24, though, the authors begin to discuss ways in which students are part of a system that includes schools and families. They argue that all members of the system need to be involved if the social, emotional, and academic needs of students are to be met. This is starting to feel redundant. On page 25, you'll see a diagram that highlights the connections between components often associated with effective school partnerships and increased student achievement. You may find that diagram useful. Pages 26 to 29, you'll see challenges to effective partnerships. And in a lot of ways, these 3 pages echo the sentiments that Christensen and her other colleagues expressed in the first article that we read. Perhaps the most useful portion of this chapter, for the purposes of this course, begins on page 30. The authors discuss avenues for strengthening school-family partnerships, and there are useful bulleted lists on pages 32 to 35. Again, these ideas will be useful as you work on your critiques and when you develop your own draft plan for a school-family partnership. You may choose one of 2 forum response options this week: the found poem or the sure-unsure journal, depending on whether you want a more creative or linear approach. In either case, make sure you refer to the lecture notes and both articles in an identifiable way. In addition, the strongest responses are detailed. They show connections among the readings and with your own experiences. They demonstrate ways that you might use this information, how these ideas might actually look in the real world, and the strongest responses go beyond summarizing the surface details. I'm looking forward to hearing your discussions. Let me know if you have questions, and thank you for sharing this first video with me.